Good morning, everyone. It is bright and early. Things are tense over in Europe as not any less than four NATO warships are surrounding a Chinese bulk carrier, which has been caught red-handed, dragging its anchor across the bottom of the Baltic Sea and was responsible for cutting those two undersea data cables in Europe. Big question out there is, did Donald Trump solve the border crisis with one phone call to the president, the leftist president of Mexico? We got a big update on IV bags. We got big questions about whether there'll be an Amazon strike out there today on Black Friday. Shipping might be delayed on some of those things, and that's going to hit potentially 20 countries. We'll cover that. We got beef prices, updates on that, more updates on North Carolina, and our community is making a big difference out there. Let's jump all into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and these are your updates that you guys are sending in. Please do keep them coming. I guess one name that we haven't really thought about yet is I could call you guys updaters, right? Because you guys are sending in so many updates. But make sure you use the word update somewhere in your comment if you want to get it onto the video, something to share with the group. Thank you so much for everyone who has been providing those over time here. We do want to thank our sponsor before we dive in, Genesis Gold Group. They help us. They help people with retirement accounts to get into gold, silver, and platinum out of stocks and bonds, other risky things. If you don't know what's in your IRA, your 401k, or your Canadian retirement account, and you want to find out if it's at risk, you might want to talk to Jonathan and his team. They may be able to help you out understanding better what you have and what your options are. There'll be a link at the end of the video for you to find out more about that. All right, so the Chinese ship Yipeng 3, because apparently there's a 2 and a 1, I don't know, is sitting in international waters in the Baltic Sea under the watchful eye of Danish warships. It is now suspected of intentionally dragging its anchor 100 miles across the Baltic Sea floor, which resulted in 2 data cables being cut. As of yesterday, there were 4 NATO ships surrounding the bulk carrier, according to the Wall Street Journal. They said the ship's transponder, which charts its movements on the so-called automatic identification system, shut down what is known as a dark incident, and the ship then continued even as they were dragging the anchor, greatly reducing its speed, according to the satellite and other data reviewed by investigators. Given the mild weather conditions and manageable wave heights, the likelihood of an accidental anchor dragging appears minimal. That was from the analytics company Poplar. They missed a vowel in there somewhere, but it's Danish, so that makes sense. So they shut off their transponder, and just before they apparently let down their anchor, and then they dragged their anchor for 100 miles, and then when they got done, they turned their transponder back on. So not suspicious at all, is it? This is from Baxter. If you've been following along with the IV bag shortages out there, Baxter International is a Western North Carolina plant that provides a large amount of the bulk of intravenous and peritoneal dialysis solutions across the United States. They also have a plant down in Florida that was also impacted by the next hurricane, right? But the plant in North Carolina is the big one. And they said that they have now released their first product that they've manufactured since Helene hurricane. This product was a 1-liter IV solution bag, which is the most commonly used size in hospitals and clinics across the country. So they finally started producing them. This is ahead of our original expectations, they said, and made possible by the dedication and resilience of the North Cove and broader Baxter teams working in coordination with the FDA. So that's good news out there. The company previously said that they're on track to reach 100% allocations for multiple IV product codes by the end of 2024. So they're hoping by the end of next month to have some of their production lines fully functional. That means now they're going to have a backlog that they need to get caught up on. but that is some movements in the right direction. Speaking of Mexico, Donald Trump sent out this truth, I think is what they're calling it, right? Sent out this truth, not a tweet. Just had a wonderful conversation with the new president of Mexico, Claudia Pardo. She has agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border. We also talked about what can be done to stop the massive drug inflow into the United States and also U.S. consumption of these drugs. It was a very productive conversation. He then tweeted or truthed, Mexico will stop people from going to our southern border effective immediately. This will go a long way towards stopping the illegal invasion of the USA. Thank you. So people kind of followed up with President Pardo, a avowed leftist down in Mexico, and she said, during the conversation, we reiterate that Mexico's position is not to close borders, but to build bridges between governments and communities. Now, a whole bunch of folks are just trying to thwack Donald Trump with this, basically saying, "Oh, he misunderstood," or he blew out of proportion the arrangements or agreements. Well, one, nothing was signed, right? So they were just discussing what arrangements can be made. He came away with the understanding, apparently, that she was going to actually close down the border. She was going to close down people coming through Mexico to get to the U.S. border. She seems to be saying, but they're using different language on those things, so they could be saying the same thing. She may need to save face. She may need to make it look like she's not agreeing with him too much because she is a leftist, right? But he has Mexico over their barrel with the threat of the tariffs. So we will see what happens with this and see who is right on this. If we see a massive drop-off of people arriving at the U.S. border down in Mexico, I think that will start to let us know who was right on this. If we don't see a drop-off, then obviously this is going to be an escalated situation once Donald Trump gets into office and actually has the ability to put teeth into the negotiations with Mexico. So we'll see how that plays out, but some promising movements, hopefully promising conversations happening out there. This is from Iron Horse Cav. In California, you will no longer be able to buy a gas or diesel RV after the 1st of January, the official no-fun state. Now, while the rules are a bit more complex than that, it's not quite just an outright ban on gas and diesel RVs. It's partially like a ban on gas and diesel RVs that were manufactured after January 1st, 2025. And they also have to, unless they comply with these really crazy stringent things, which apparently no RVs currently actually meet those stringent standards. So the effect will be basically banning RVs as we go into this year. RVs are not going to be able to be sold inside California. Crazy. That's where we're all headed, isn't it? Deanne says, look out for beef prices to go sky high and ultimately other proteins due to the U.S. Department of Agriculture closing the southern border to live cattle because of screwworms. Well, it's certainly going to be not good for beef prices. We do import a lot more beef into the United States than people are aware of. So we may see beef prices go up dramatically in the next couple weeks. That's possible. There is a lot of frozen beef in in warehouses and such like that. Fresh, no frozen beef usually is pretty local as it is. Most of the stuff that's being imported is frozen, or live. So we should hopefully not see too much of an impact immediately. Also, the screwworm ban on imports is temporary. It's temporary until the U.S. Department of Agriculture can assess how much screwworm infestation there is in Mexico and to give new recommendations in the coming days and such. So we don't know yet how much of an impact that will be, but it could have an impact, especially on bordering states with Mexico. Skywatcher says, what's happening regarding the Amazon strikes worldwide and the possible catastrophic supply chain events that they may cause? Now, obviously, you may be like, I don't really care about Amazon. Well, a lot of stuff in the United States and other countries moves through the Amazon supply chain. So like McDonald's. McDonald's is the largest food service supply chain, and it feeds a lot of Americans every day. And so when they're disrupted, it actually messes up grocery stores. And in the same way, if Amazon has major disruptions, it's going to just cause ripples across all the supply chains out there. So this is what's happening. Apparently, there's some groups out there trying to instigate, trying to get Amazon workers to strike, get Amazon workers to try to unionize, because that would be just so much money in their pockets if they could be the union that organizes the Amazon workers to all strike and to create a union for Amazon across all of their locations. So it's a lot of money on the table if a union can pull that off. So there's oftentimes a lot of unions and organizers out there talking a big game, but at the same time they often don't deliver. But this group is out there claiming 20 countries are going to strike on Black Friday. They tried to strike last year. They're also supposed to strike through Cyber Monday in countries like US, Brazil, Germany, Japan, and the UK. We will see if this actually happens. Just understand that the delivery of your items may take longer than normal if this is a real deal. So no indication on how serious this threat will be as of yet. All right, Bowler Hat Farmer says, update, Chris, we live near the U.S. Air Force Lakenheath in the UK. We witnessed a swarm of drones, so they live near the Air Force base. We witnessed a swarm of drones in the area that went over the base. Military fighter planes were then dispatched. Very scary. So we've had multiple more incidents in the UK where aircraft had to be scrambled, $1,000 drones forcing billions of dollars of aircraft to scramble. Basically, just for perspective here, it costs $40,000 per flight hour for the F-35. That's basically how much it costs for them to take off and land. $40,000 for each F-35 to take off and land. That is a lot of money, and those and just the threat of potentially those drones damaging or destroying any kind of U.S. aircraft or UK aircraft. We've had drones having issues here in the U.S. over military bases as well. Is this the lead up to a hybrid warfare? Russia has said that we are now combatants and that military bases inside Russia, inside Germany, the UK, and the United States are now fair game, given that our missiles are being used and our missiles personnel are being used to target those missiles into Russian targets. Farm Girl says Lafayette, Georgia, Walmart completely out of eggs. Today, the day before Thanksgiving. Tawna, no whole milk in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. I've seen it low, but out of gallon and half gallon. We got TJ saying egg shortages at my local Fred Meyer store in Tacoma, Washington. The shelves were nearly empty. This is the first time I have seen this. Jenny says, I called the North Carolina, and this is a great story out there of people making a difference. I called the North Carolina governor's office just now to ask very nicely why, and she said it was a local office about the zoning. It's a flood zone. I informed her that these were not flood zones defined by FEMA. Because it's a 1 in 100 years storm, 1% chance, etc. So basically, if you're not familiar, what's happening out there is that that they are saying that these tiny homes cannot be set up inside the flood zone. And the problem is that the flood zone was here, and that they've modified the flood zone up a lot. Southern Prepper One did a video on that not too long ago. I was watching that. Also, Deep River Farm has done a recent video talking about what they're doing here too. So places where houses used to be and were not in the flood zone that did get damaged, they are now, quote, in the flood zone. And so all these flat spots across basically all of North Carolina can't be used now to set up things like tiny homes or else without major insurance. So we can't set up emergency shelters. We can't set up emergency structures for people to hide from the cold because we have to set up full buildings that have flood insurance before they'll let people move into them, which is just outrageous. So Jenny is one of the many folks out there calling the governor's office and local and county offices. So she continued, I asked if the governor had spoken to the local officials. No answer. I asked if he agrees with the locals. No answer. Then she hung up on me. I called back and it went straight to voicemail. Y'all need to call the governor's office and nicely ask if the governor has spoken to the local officials and ask if he agrees if it's okay to let people freeze to death. Hard questions out there. Difficult. I'm shooting this on Thanksgiving evening because I'm flying home. As you're watching this, I'll be at the airport. As you can see, the sun's been setting, but important information out there. Hopefully, a bunch of you guys have made calls. If you want to find out more about how to make those calls, especially if you're in North Carolina, calling from out of state is probably not as effective. But if you're inside North Carolina, holding your elected officials to account is an important part of democracy, right? Deep River Farm will be able to get you more information about that. Go over to his channel. You can just type in Deep River Farm. Good channel to be subscribed to keep up to date with the latest information of what's happening in North Carolina and how to help over there. They've said that they have been overwhelmed with all the donations through Amazon and such that they've received on the heaters and everything like that. So right now what they really need is the cash donations, and they have information over there on where best to get that to them so they can buy the bits and bobs that they need. You know, if they got a heater and they don't have a filter for it, you know, they might need to get a filter for it, or if they need to get more propane or get their propane tanks refilled, all the stuff that they need to do. If they need to pay somebody gas money so they can drive it up to somebody to drop it off, that's the kind of stuff where cash really is going to be king in these situations. So every little bit helps. Some of you guys were not able to chip in a whole heater. That is a great way for you to chip in some bips and bobs, or from some gas money for somebody to drive up a mountain to drop off these things to people who actually need them. So definitely check that out. Dahl says, all these Listeria and E. coli outbreaks, please keep activated charcoal in your medicine cabinet. It absorbs toxins and has saved me from food poisoning more than once. That is a good thing to have in there. Make sure you know how to use it and make sure you understand what it can do and what it can't do. But it will absorb a lot of toxins and such. If you have a really bad issue with your stomach, especially chemicals and stuff like that, that is something that can absorb things. You know, Sherry says, still no canned salmon at Walmart, at any of the Walmarts near me, including a supercenter 15 miles away. I also checked the thickness on the garbage bags I've been using. The easy flaps are now 0.85 mils. The drawstrings are still the 1.05 mils, which explains why I had holes develop in some of my bags last month. So yeah, they're even shrinkflationing your trash bags, friends. That's so frustrating. Also, Reynolds Wrap no longer says Made in America. They had a good name for quality, but more so for American support. Why bother paying more, a lot more, even if the aluminum is still sourced in the U.S., which it may not be. they're no longer proud of it. Also, we've been blessed in Baltimore to still have eggs, howbeit they range now from $5 a dozen to $12 a dozen. Crazy. Raising Warriors says in North Carolina, there's a new tax now on white appliances. This sounds like a racist tax to me. Did anyone notice? I've seen someone talking about it in a local town group. She mentioned it was $3. So if you buy a washer and dryer, it's $6 at checkout. So if you would have bought a black set of washer and dryer, no tax. But if it happens to be white, it's $3 per unit. Why white? This is dumb. And it sure does sound dumb. Can you imagine that? If you had to pay extra if you got the wrong color paint job on your car, if the government said, like, we're going to tax all the red cars, that's just like stupid. That's beyond stupid. Oak City Nurse says Iran has developed PBAs for warfare. This is something I haven't looked into, which is pharmaceutical-based agents, which is opioid-based. They're weapons. So they're weaponizing these pharmaceuticals. Example, fentanyl-based weapons for Hamas or Hezbollah to use. Also, some states and illegal gangs could use it in our streets to fight. So it's not a chemical weapon per se, but it is something along those lines. People's creativity for destruction knows no bounds. And it's hard to even keep up with what they're inventing and weaponizing in order to use to harm people. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. Thanks very much for sharing your updates. I will be back in Pittsburgh later today, your time. If you want to check out another video from this channel, the latest video is probably right there on the screen. You can just tap right there. If you want to get some more information from Genesis Gold, you can tap on the screen right there. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.